Um, Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on SEO success blueprint for legal professionals, dominating Google search results, with me, David Gilmore of DG Legal. Now, I'm sure you're quite used to this, so you'll know that being in webinar mode, we can't see or hear any of you, so please use the Q&A function so that the speakers can answer, or speaker even, can answer your questions. Now, today is going to be a mixture of storytelling and improvisation. I must emphasize that very unusually, there aren't any slides. So I'm going to be a little unsure about precisely what we're going to cover. Some of that's up to you. I'll be asking you some questions very shortly, which will influence today's content. I don't have a script that I'm following. It's really going to be influenced by the questions and the results of the polls, as I just explained. So as we won't be using slides, you'll need to listen carefully and stop replying to emails. I'm going to tell you about my experience of SEO and how I and some of our clients have learned to get to the top or near the very top of Google search engine rankings. Now, if you were to ask 5 different business or marketing professionals about what it is you must do to get to the top of Google, you won't get the same answers. And that's because nobody knows the precise Google algorithm that affects search engine ranking results. And the algorithm does change frequently. But we've been able to work out the most important factors by looking at websites, and lots of them that are top of page 1 for relevant searches. I have to say that many years ago, I think it would have been at least 10 years ago, if not more than 10 years ago, I did use an SEO, that stands for Search Engine Optimization, marketing agency, and I paid a few £100 a month. And they had the usual sales patter of saying, well, look, you're going to need to let it run for 9 months and see what happens. And I didn't have a good experience, I have to say. It made absolutely no difference. And it was actually quite a good thing in the long term because it made me work hard to understand the Google algorithm. And really, I'm not going to be taking you through everything that we know about the Google algorithm because we haven't got time, but I want to certainly take you through some of the key things. And I'm going to really focus the presentation based on some polls. So let's see if we can operate these polls. It's not something that we've done before. Let's just have a go at this. Right, so now if this doesn't work, I want you to use the chat facility, please. So you should see, I hope, in front of you, a question. Now the question is, which category of person do you fall under? Are you a lawyer, a practice manager, a marketing manager, a student or other? And clearly it is working because I can see some results coming in. So can I just give that half a minute or so, give you a chance to answer? And then once you've answered number 1, you can go on to number 2, which is for lawyers, which areas of law do you practice in? And when you've answered that question, number 3 is in which area of the UK are you based? I'm going to give you another 20 seconds or so. See, 75% of you have participated. Okay, 80%. I think that's enough. So if we click on the end poll, let's have a look at the results. So 60% of you are lawyers, 13% are practice managers, 8% marketing managers, 2% are students, and 17% others. Okay. For lawyers, which areas do you practice in? Let's just see if it will give me the details. It's asking me to re-sign into Zoom. Here we go. Right. So we have got quite a lot of crime, immigration, conveyancing, divorce. So family, immigration, and crime is dominating that one. Okay, so that's interesting. So I'll be looking at crime, family, and immigration. Which area of the UK are you based? 41% London, 21% in the Midlands, 15% in the Northwest, etc. Okay, so you should be able to see those results now, and you might have to scroll down if you want to look at all of them. Okay, let's stop that. That's very handy. Right, what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to share my screen and we can crack on. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen. Can you all see Google search results? Is video helpful to Google SEO? Can you see that? So normally you'd have like a screen thing. I'm just going to stop that and try it again. I'm going to assume that's working. Yes, I think it is. Okay, cool. Right. So I mentioned to you that my experience of using an SEO agency hasn't been particularly good. So I think it may be useful for you to consider using an SEO agency, but I do think what's most important is if you learn as much about the Google algorithm as you possibly can, because then you have the knowledge, you have the power to make change and to help get your firm up the website rankings. So let's just start with one of the first tips, which will help you. You may or may not have heard of your Google business page. And I'm going to show you our business page. So you can see here on the right-hand side about DG Legal. There's some basic details about us. You can see we've got 999 Google reviews. There is in the address, the phone number. There's also a link to Facebook reviews and some snippets from reviews that have been posted in the past. There's a description about what we do. We publicize what events we're about to be launching. And we've got our profiles on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So it's important, irrespective of the Google algorithm, that you put in as much information about you as possible. That is going to make you look more professional, and potential clients are more likely to be curious about you and click onto your website. Now, also, if I was to scroll down, I can see that there's also my Trustpilot reviews. There's 37 reviews. Now, the interesting thing about Google reviews is having a high number of Google reviews, I'm sure, affects your SEO ranking. Now, the only concern I've got about our Google reviews is that having 999 looks suspiciously high. You know, it's not easy to fake, but it's possible. So we felt that it was time to move on to another platform. So we have switched from Google to Trustpilot, which I was referring to earlier. And you can see with Trustpilot, we've had 37 reviews, rating of 4.6. Interestingly, we had Trustpilot, one of their directors, gave us a presentation yesterday, and he said that the public's favourite rating is not 5, it's in actual fact 4.4, because according to their research, if you've got a score of 4.9 or 5, it just looks a bit too high. So don't necessarily be obsessed with getting a perfect score. I certainly won't mind if our score in Google goes down a little bit, if people do post more Google reviews, etc., because the public realise that none of us are perfect. And in fact, if things do go wrong and you get a negative review, then it's how you react to that that is important. So another tip when it comes to working with Google is respond to your reviews. We certainly respond to every review posted to us. And I think the only time we ever had a negative review was following a webinar, hopefully not this one, but a past webinar where someone gave us just 1 star. And so we responded saying, you know, tell us how we can improve, blah, blah, blah. And I just think that's the right way to do it. If you get overly defensive, it's not necessarily going to look good. I mean, I've seen restaurants, for example, in the past be quite aggressive to customers when they've posted a negative review. I'm often asked about reviews and can you get rid of negative reviews? Well, it depends really. I mean, we once got a really negative review which included hate language. So when we did initially tell Google about it, they just ignored it. But then when we wrote them a legal letter saying, look, this review is in breach of their terms and conditions and was clearly meant for a different business, it wasn't about DG Legal, it was posted to us by mistake, Google then did take it down. Now, I'm not going to say anything else about reviews because we are doing a webinar on review websites same time next week. So second tip then was to complete your Google My Business page comprehensively. Third tip was to get lots of reviews, and then fourth I was mentioning about replying to reviews. So looking at those poll results, we've got the majority are crime, family, and immigration. So we're probably going to just focus on those 3 areas and have a look at some results. Now, when you are putting in a search term, try and think what the public would search for. So let's take crime, for instance. So a very common search term might be, you can see here, speeding, how to avoid getting banned. I'm going to tell a story about a crime firm. I can't mention who they are because I don't have permission to mention them, but it is quite a cute story. So many years ago, I think it would have been about 12, 13 years ago. No, sorry, 11 years ago, this particular firm wanted a crime legal aid contract. Now, because of a series of failed tendering exercises, they weren't able to get one. So the pressure was really very high on them to get as much private work as they possibly could because there was no publicly funded work for them. So they worked very hard to get as many motoring type clients in as they possibly could. And this is a firm that I worked with. And they were quite cute in what they did. They put a lot of content in the website. There was a lot of videos, a point I'm going to come back to a little bit later, a lot of self-help guides, etc. So let's just have a look at what a member of the public might put into Google. So I typed in speeding, how to avoid getting banned, and just to show that that's real, just pressed enter. Now you can see at the top here, we've got sponsored ads. You might be surprised about sponsored ads because a lot of lawyers think public aren't going to click on sponsored ads. They actually do, because if they didn't, firms wouldn't be doing this. So you can see here the top one is a firm called Forrest Williams. So just having a look. In fact, we'll just open up this first one here. See what we get. See if they've optimized the website. Right, totting up avoid the ban with Forrest Williams. Now, if we just look at this, what's interesting about this, and this is a point that I'm going to repeat on a number of occasions. There's quite a lot of content there. I mean, a lot of content. I mean, I'm curious to see what else is on there. So let's have a look. So you can see here, let's just click GBH. And once again, there's a lot of content. So that's doing really quite well, but that was a sponsored ad. And then if I was to look at a non-sponsored ad, I bet there's going to be a lot of content. So you've heard the phrase cash is king. Well, with websites, content is king. And we're going to see this time and time again when we look at sites which are at the top for a particular search. So just a little bit there about crime. Let's have a look at let's do some other searches. So if I was to do Let's Sell Consultant, because one of the services we provide is Let's Sell, you can see that we're top of page 1. We even come ahead of the Law Society, which is quite an achievement because the amount of content on the Law Society website is absolutely huge. And just one little tip. There are various tools on the internet that will tell you how many words are on your website, and that can be quite important because if you want to compare your performance with another firm's performance that are higher up than you, one of the things you might want to do is just check how many words are on their website. So why have we got to the top of page 1? Well, there's quite a lot of reasons. We have got quite a lot of content, but not a huge amount. We have got quite a lot of video on our website. So you can see here, this is a video. I'm not going to play all of it. I might just play a few seconds of it. The other thing that we do is, of course, whenever we've done a free webinar, we put details of the previous webinars on our website. So that website is embedded. And one of the Google searches I did some time ago is this one: is video helpful to Google SEO? And there's lots and lots of articles that say, yes, video is really important. And it's particularly important in the legal industry because the overwhelming majority of law firms don't have any video on their website. So if you're in the 5% or so of law firms that have video, that's really going to help. And there's different things you can do. So instead of just a blog, you could do a video blog, because then you'd have the best of both worlds. You could have the written content available in addition to the video. Or you could have a video perhaps introducing your firm and what you do. And it doesn't have to be a very long video. And in fact, if it was any longer than 90 seconds, I think people would switch off. So anything between, say, 30 and 60 seconds, I think would be ideal. And if you're going to do this, do it quickly. Do it as soon as you can, because there's going to be a point in time in the future where the cat is out of the bag and most people and most law firms know about the Google algorithm. So crack on and be one of the 5%. So I was showing you Let's Sell Consultant. If I did the same thing for SQM Consultant, again, you can see we're top of page 1. If I was to put in SRA New Firm Authorization Consultant, we're at the top there because we've got a sponsored ad. Now, because we particularly like doing new firm authorization applications, the SRA, that's the only area where we would put an ad. So we've got a sponsored link there, and we're also top of the natural search results. Well, in fact, we're second today. Sometimes we're first, but the SRA are just ahead of us there. And then we're right after the SRA. So we're quite happy with that one. Let's go back to thinking about successful searches for other areas of law. So we were just talking about crime a little earlier. Let's move on to immigration and family. So I'm going to close that one, close that one and open up the new search. So this time we are going to put in London immigration lawyers. Now we've got some sponsored ads at the top here. Immigration is an incredibly competitive area. Now, this is what I call the kind of magic box. So this is kind of the address thing that appears before the other search engine results. Now you can see here we've got Rice Edwards. They've got 1,000 reviews. Then we've got another firm with 204, then another one with 121. And then we've got various other firms. So let's just pick on some of these. So let's have a look at our legal. Let's have a look at them. Now, this is an interesting website. I'm not sure what you're thinking about this, but the font size is really small, so it's a little difficult to read. Let's just have a look at how much content there is. My goodness me. There's lots and lots of content, and more when you open the drop-down boxes. So I can tell you that the reason why this firm is doing this, and they're not a client of ours, is they're doing this for the Google algorithm. They're putting lots and lots and lots of content on there. And I can guarantee that it'll be the same for the other firms that are up there. So let's have a look at Rice Edwards. The leading team of immigration solicitors in London. That's quite a boast. And guess what, folks? Huge amount of content. So this is both a good thing and a scary thing, isn't it? So the good thing is it's proving to you that these firms that are at the top of page one have got a lot of content. The scary thing is writing it. Who should write it? Should it be yourself? Should it be a copywriter, etc.? And I guess you've got three choices, really. I mean, choice number one would be to do it yourself, which is going to be quite an ask. A choice number two would be to use a generic copywriter. And choice number three is going to be using a legal copywriter, i.e. a lawyer that's experienced in that area of law. If you use a generic copywriter, it will be cheaper than a lawyer. But the problem is that the generic person is going to spend a very long time doing it because they won't be an expert in your area of law. So it probably makes more sense to go for choice number three and get somebody involved that knows what they're talking about. So the only issue, I suppose, about some of these websites that we're looking at is that, yes, they've got a lot of content, but is it too much content? Does it look inelegant? And there can be a good compromise. If we look at Kingsley Napoli, yes, they're not right at the top of page one, possibly because they don't have quite as much content, but they have a good reputation. They're in Chambers and Legal 500 guides. Many of you, particularly those of you in London, would have heard of Kingsley Napoli. And I think this is a good compromise because the website's much nicer looking. It's been designed by a professional. Again, there's plenty of information about services. They're putting information down about what the legal directories say. So if I was a potential client, I think I'd be possibly going to this firm. And I want to show you another example in immigration of a good compromise. So instead of London immigration lawyers, let's put in barristers. Okay, so we've got some ads again at the top. And then the top of the natural results, this is a firm that I know, is Richmond Chambers. And this is a good compromise because it is both crammed with content, maybe not too much content, but certainly a heck of a lot. But it is well written because I've read through this. And when you look at the design of the website, again, it's pretty nice. I mean, that looks like a stock photo, doesn't it? It's actually their front office. That will be a stock photo. That'll be a stock photo. But it's a nice looking website. So you can get the best of both worlds. Now, why don't we have a look at family? So if we were to look at, for example, London family solicitors, let's have a look at what we get. So we've got Stowe Family Law. Might as well have a look at that one because I think this is an excellent looking website. I love the fact that you've got a call to action in the top right hand corner. An 0330 number, got their opening hours. You notice 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. so that people that are working can get hold of them. Most law firms are open 9 to 5 or 9 to 5:30. Some law firms still don't answer the phone at lunchtime and put it onto an answering phone. Whereas really, if you can't answer the phone, please use an answering agency. Again, you've got contact us, which is a call to action. I like the fact that they've got Trustpilot score, 4.7, 922 reviews. We've got a free callback, and it's a good looking website. So this firm have done well. And I think, after I've looked at this firm and I've done research about this firm, I think this is I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying this, I think they're a business first and they're lawyers second, because you can tell that this is a firm that is run as a commercial business and is very much marketing led. Then you've got some other sponsored ads, very competitive area of law. And then you have got top of natural search engine results, a firm that we know very well, London Family Solicitor, and then again, top of the magic box. So they're actually doing very well. Now, I think they've been quite cute here. It's probably an accident, but they've put the name or the word London into that. So if you're searching for London Family Solicitor, that's obviously going to help. And they've got a decent website as well. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some help about some of the reasons why those firms are at the top of the Google search results. So one piece of homework for you, if you really want to do well, is, again, I just want to summarize what we've been talking about. We've been talking about completing your Google business page, getting a lot of reviews, responding to reviews, putting lots of content into your website, using video. If you can't really use video, excuse me, use an animation like you saw on our website. Next piece of advice, which I think might be important for you, if you can do this, is getting backlinks. So what's a backlink? So backlink is where on another website links to your website, okay? And the more backlinks you get, the more important Google thinks you are. Got to be a little bit careful about this. A lot of firms used to cheat many years ago, and then Google updated its algorithm. What a lot of firms used to do is they'd say, well, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. So firm A would link to firm B, and firm B would then link to firm A. That worked for a period of time, and then Google nullified it, so it doesn't work anymore. So if you're in a position where you can persuade another company to link to your website, that's going to help. So to give you an example, when any journalist asks if they can get a quote from me, or if they want me to write an article for a magazine, if I say yes, I'll always say, can I link back to my website? And if they say no, then I don't do the article, but usually they will say yes. Just be a little bit careful about this, because I said earlier that there's nothing wrong with using SEO or marketing agencies if they know what they're doing. But if they don't know what they're doing, they could make the situation worse rather than better. And probably one of the most famous examples in the legal sector, it's a large firm based all around the country. They had a marketing SEO agency, and they got lots of backlinks pointing at their website. The problem was that these backlinks were coming from several cafes in South America. So they were kind of cheating the system. So what Google looks at nowadays is the link a natural link? So if you've got a link from a coffee shop, that's probably going to do more harm than it would do good. Whereas if it's from an organisation in the legal sector, then it's more likely not it's going to work. So just be a little bit careful. And another example of a big firm trying to cheat the system was having fake pages. So they have like a blank page with white text on it. So a human couldn't read it, but the Google algorithm could. And I remember one particular major motor manufacturer did that. And I think Google banned them for a period of time, as they did with that other law firm that were using the South American cafes. Now, I said a little earlier that content is king. Another tip really is to update your website regularly. So having a look at our website, I'll just show you what we do. Go back to the homepage. So we'll update our website at least every week because we do it on average one webinar a week. So we'll be adding that. We do also have a news page. Now, the worst thing you can do is to have a news page and then never update it. I've been on innumerable websites where the last item from news was like 3 years ago. So if you're not going to keep it updated, then take that page down. That's what I would say. You can see for us, we've talked about our January 2024 newsletter, our December newsletter, November. So we all do a kind of newsletter each month. It's basically a summary of our compliance bulletin, which goes to our retainer clients and lets them know about everything that's happening, together with suggested actions and where appropriate template wording. So yeah, I think doing blogs is, as I said earlier, a really good idea, as long as blogs or news items are regular. Now, something else to bear in mind, which is part of the Google algorithm, is locality. So when you put a search, let's give it a go. So I'm going to put in a new search term. This time I'm going to put in electric gates near me. And then we come up with some options. And number one is Charnwood Gates Automation. That's another business that I co-own. We've been going for 2.5 years. And when we designed the website, we tried to optimize it for Google. And despite the fact they've only been going for 2 years, we've got already into the #1 position. So it really does work. And the phone really literally doesn't stop ringing. So it really is such an important thing. So coming back to the point about geography, sometimes people will put in lawyers near me. Let's have a look at family solicitor near me. See what comes up. So that's interesting because you see, Stowe are not local to me, but because they paid for a sponsored ad, they got there. Same with Vardags. So Vardags are a London firm. Oh, I'm wrong. I beg your pardon. Stowe do have a Leicester office. I was not aware of that. Then in the so-called magic box, we've got the family law group, which they have several offices in the Midlands. Then we've got Johnston, Astles, who are Loughborough and Leicester, and then Straw and Pearce. Again, you can see all three of those firms have got a significant, not a massive amount of reviews, but certainly a significant number of reviews there. And Straw and Pearce are a Loughborough firm, so they've again understandably come towards the top. Just a hint here, one of the cheap things that SEO companies can often do to persuade you they got you onto page one or top of page one, because geography is such a big thing in terms of search results. If you were going to use your own computer and you were going to search for whatever is the term you're looking for, maybe family lawyer or immigration lawyer or crime solicitor, whatever it is, the Google algorithm is going to prioritize local firms. So of course it uses your IP address to work out where you're located. So you have some sales guy who's going to do that. Well, of course you're going to be on page one because you are sitting in the building where your firm is based. So don't be fooled by that. So how can you tell? Well, you can basically perhaps do the search from home, or you could do an incognito search, or you could hide your IP address by using one of these providers that blocks your IP address or changes the IP address. Then you're going to get perhaps more kind of natural results. Okay, now I am going to stop sharing for a moment so that I can have a look at the chat and the Q&As. So I will have a look at the chat now. That's a good question from Kevin. If lots of content increases the Google algorithm, but then won't people be turned off once they visit your site and see so much content? Well, I completely agree. I think maybe that question came in around about the same time. I'm not sure that I was making the point that I think too much content is a bit of a put off. So look at those websites that I pointed out, which I thought were a good compromise between content and good looking, and perhaps not having too much content, particularly the small font point sizes, etc. So the Kingsley Napoli, the Richmond Chambers, I thought were good examples. There's another question: where can I learn more about SEO? Well, interestingly enough, if you were to use ChatGPT, Bard, or just do a Google search about how to climb up the SEO rankings, you'll get a list of things which are a little different to what I've been through over the last 40 minutes. I decided that I wanted to base this webinar on my own experience and the experience of my clients. But if you were to do that, you'll get slightly different answers. You'll get answers such as, well, you need to make sure that you're using your keywords, the words which potential clients will search for. There was a time with the Google algorithm where they would say, oh, you should use your keywords 5% of the time. I don't think that's the case any longer. I think just writing naturally is the most important. There'll be other pieces of advice such as label your every image with whatever somebody might be searching for. That's also very good advice. And perhaps that should be a piece of homework for you. So use ChatGPT, use all of the AI tools at your fingertips to learn a bit more about the Google algorithm. I certainly think you should do that before you consider engaging an expert, because then you'll be asking the right kind of questions, etc. I can see Kevin said, or someone said, thank you, and that's absolutely fine. Let's go and have a look at the Q&A box. Right, question from Mary. I tend to stay away from sponsored ads and listings as I have a tendency not to trust them. Am I being naive? Also, if the writing is too small or too verbose, I switch off and look elsewhere. I like your description of it being inelegant. Yeah, I was one of those that also didn't really believe in sponsored ads. I wasn't sure they would work. And in all honesty, they work differently in terms of success according to how much competition there is, because you might want to know the answer to the question, how much is a Google ad? Well, I can't tell you, because the price is dynamic. It's a bit like a Ryanair type situation, depends on supply and demand. So let's take my example. I showed you the SRA new firm authorization. The cost to me isn't massive, because there aren't too many competitors doing that. I think there was 2 other adverts. So I've only got, what, 2 competitors. So then the price can't be that high. If there was like 100 firms wanting to advertise that, the price would skyrocket to manage the demand. So personal injury is probably a really good example. I mean, it's obviously the market for that has gone downhill somewhat. But a few years ago, the price for a Google ad for personal injury was really high, really expensive. So you'd have to really monitor on a month-by-month basis whether or not it was working for you. Certainly, when someone contacts us about new firm authorization, or even about a retainer service, the first thing that I will ask, or I'll get it in somewhere in the first conversation, is, how did you hear about us? And my experience is that I think 60% of our new client inquiries are Google searches. I think 40% are word of mouth, or they've heard about us because we've been in the field for around 23 years now. When I ask some of our clients, they will say that, you know, the top of the search engine rankings is going to be more like 60–70%. And next Tuesday's webinar will feature an employment law firm that get around about 70% of their clients because of a mixture of Google searches and review websites. So I cannot underemphasize the importance of that. So to answer Mary's question, I do think sponsored ads are worth it. I think you should try it for a few months. I mean, I'll give you an example. There's a family firm in Leicester, a client of ours, that run a campaign, and they switched it off after a few months, not because it wasn't working, it was working too well, but it just couldn't cope with the demand, quite frankly. And sometimes, and that was the right decision for them, because I had there's another firm that I know, not locally, who became massively successful, getting hundreds and hundreds of queries, and they just couldn't resist taking on all of these clients. They didn't have capacity. So guess what? They had lots and lots and lots of complaints, and the legal ombudsman had like a team to deal with their complaints. So don't be greedy. It can work really well, but just like with SEO, you've still got to work hard on your advert. You've got to make sure you've got your most important words in the advert. You've got to think about what it is that your potential clients are searching for. So it's not just going to be London family solicitor. It could be help with getting a divorce, for instance, etc. So yeah, there we go. So a little bit of a long answer there. Next question is, what is your opinion on using AI platforms for writing a website content copy? Can it be an option for? That's a good question. Now, the reason why that's going to be a bit of a dangerous game, I'll explain. So if you copy someone else's content, because you don't know where the AI has got it from, sometimes the AI will generate something using its own intelligence. It'll be a mixture of things. Sometimes it's plain lifted from someone. So to prepare for this, and I wanted to see what other people had written about Google SEO, I asked AI the question about how to get to the top of page one, and it lifted word for word that was off somebody's website. Now, if you were to copy that, put that on your website, you can get a cease and desist type letter. And in fact, an air conditioning engineer got in touch with me, who I know, to say that his designer had done just that. I don't know if he was using AI or how it happened, but the content on his website was very, very similar, practically identical to someone else. And I was on holiday when they left the message, but this other firm wanted a few £1,000s, and he just paid it just to get them off his back and promised to change the content of his website. The other problem with duplicating content that might be elsewhere is that Google doesn't give you search points for that. If Google thinks that you've copied someone else's, then I'm pretty sure it's going to penalise you. It did happen to us once. We found a website years ago that was identical in content to ours. They clearly copied and pasted it. And it was a solicitor, actually, that was doing Lexel consultancy. So we said, look, unless you immediately remove this, we'll report you to the SRA. And, you know, we reserve our rights to litigate over this. So that worked. So I'd say be really, really careful with AI. And you certainly got to proofread it so carefully. Right. We have done pretty well for time because I was allowing up to an hour, and we've done just shy of 50 minutes. Are there any final questions? Just in case someone's typing it, I'm just going to kind of finish off by saying thank you very much for joining this webinar. Just remember, there are no slides, but a recording of this webinar will be sent over to you tomorrow. You should get an email from us asking us are asking you to rate us out of 5 stars. So if you've enjoyed the webinar, please do leave feedback. I'd love to see some words. You know, that's very motivating, and that's why we continue to do free webinars. If you have any suggestions of future topics, that also would be very appreciated. Now, I have referred to it already a couple of times, but our series of webinars continues next Tuesday, the 27th of February, where we're presenting a webinar on unlocking success, harnessing the potential of review websites for legal firms. And we're going to be joined by not only the employment lawyer I told you about, who's been incredibly successful. I was so impressed that I referred a client to him. We're also going to be joined by Trustpilot and review solicitors. There's really just there's 3 giants really of Trustpilot, review solicitors, and Google. So I'm going to be involved in that one too. So I look forward to that, and thank you very much for all your comments. And if you have any other queries, you can find our contact details on the website. So for instance, you can go info@dglegal.co.uk. All right. And the comments are still coming in. And it really is a pleasure. I'm so pleased that you've got something out of the last 50 minutes. So I wish you a really good afternoon and a very pleasant evening. Goodbye, everybody.